Hello, everyone. So, my second video here on this topic of relationships and emotional intimacy, I think is what I'm trying to talk about. So, last video I was talking, if you watched the last video, I was talking a lot about my personal history and sort of what I want to talk about, something I want to learn about, something I'm exploring that I'm really puzzled by, really curious about, and I'm happy to get feedback on and very fascinated. Anyway, Um, I talked about my first relationship, my second relationship of a kind of romantic nature. Well, what I was talking about was there was something missing for me, and I realized that, for example, I remember specifically a conversation that we had, and we got on very well. And she was a brilliantly talented singer, like a beautiful voice, an incredible singer. She really sang from the heart, a very simple voice, but she sang from the heart and it really touched you. It was a wonderful talent that she had, pure talent. And she was a very, caring person. And we had a few things where there was a situation, for example, where she enjoyed uh, Disney. A lot of people do, right? She liked Disney, and we went to Disney World and stuff. But I remember a conversation where I don't know how this. I can't remember how this happened. We were talking. We were in a car, and she talked about. I must have been asking her about Disney or something. I can't remember, but it came about that there was some story that when she was younger, that she'd got her mum had given her a Disney bag, and that she went to school, and some of the other girls either made fun of her, or stole the bag, or did something nasty, and so there's some bullies, and she didn't. And when this came up, I started to inquire about it more, and she shut that down. She didn't want to talk about it, and she also got angry at me for wanting to talk about it, and she was starting to cry because of the memory of it. And for me, in that moment, it was kind of a thing of like, that's what's missing. That's what I'm. The thing that I'm thinking is missing. This is what it is. She doesn't trust me to talk about that. Whatever that thing that happened, whatever it was that went on, she doesn't trust me with it. And yet, I think that I'm the person in her life that's the most supportive and would see things in a positive light for her or whatever, or wouldn't care exactly. But it came up and she got emotional, and to me, when that happens, maybe this is a sadistic side of me. Maybe this is a bad side, but when I see in a conversation, when I see the emotional trigger come up, I'm like a meerkat. Like I'm like out of the den. Like, whoa, what's that? You know, my head pops up. Oh, something's on. Something's happening here, and I realize, oh, there's something there. And so often when this happens, people they try and um, cover it over. They distract from it. They change subject. And when I see this happen, people just go along and they change the subject. And I'm like, wait, what happened there? Let's go back to that. What was that moment? Because it's an opportunity of the deepening of that connection with that person. Because they've just opened up or revealed a part of them or a situation or something that they don't show to people, that they're not comfortable with fully just declaring to everyone, but perhaps they would share with someone that they trusted. So This is an opportunity for them, if they trust you, to then share this deeper part, this thing. And this particular memory was obviously quite triggering, and I guess she didn't want to cry, and she didn't want to get emotional, and she wanted to stay in control, and blah 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 blah. And it left me very cold. It left me kind of cold. It left me feeling like I wasn't really trusted. And it left me thinking, like, well, what does she think of me? Like, who does she think I am? What is the point of this? What's the point of this relationship? Is it? And it made me sort of realize probably she would have been happy with a much simpler form of connection, a much simpler form of relationship. Um, and I didn't really think about it then, but it made me think. It's probably years that I've reflected on this. Is that many people are probably looking for a far more simplistic style of basic style of relationship, that is more just based on the sex side, the physical intimacy side. Um, and I think that a lot of women, when they say looking for connection and loving connection, I think they, if they're honest, they're saying looking for sex from guys. I'm looking to be disconnected. Are you a guy that can have sex with a woman that does not want emotional intimacy? Like, that's what I'm absolutely looking for. Um, because it is much maybe simpler, easier. It's the pattern that they're used to. It's what men have offered to them generally. Um, and it's not so challenging, I suppose. So I, and also it's quite masculine, and I think that that's probably important, that that's like a more masculine way of acting towards a women or something. Um, so anyway, there was something missing. That relationship fizzled out, but was once again fine. Took us a little while to break up, but I think we were both kind of happy with it. I think she at times wanted to re-establish it, but to me, it had lasted. It went its course. Like there was nothing more to it. There was nothing more to gain from it, and maybe she was just struggling to get over it a little bit. And but since she's, I'm pretty sure she's married now and quite happy and all that, and that's all good. Um, and then moving on from there, I wasn't with anyone for a long time after that, and then I went raw vegan and all, and I went raw vegan just after that relationship, actually, just right at the end of it, and I think that was maybe part of what ended it. That she started to think I was going a bit funny, and we started to get into the raw foods thing, and I went to Woodstock the year after that. I started to go to these festivals and events. Wasn't really looking to meet a person generally. Generally avoided that. I'd already learned that it could really hurt your week or hurt your holiday if you tried to meet people and then tried to meet women and were disappointed. It could leave a bit of a bad taste in the mouth. So uh, I, I wasn't really trying to make that happen too much. And it took me anyway. I guess I slowly started to date a little bit, and then slowly started to go on the dating apps and stuff, and that. But a number of my the actual longer term relationships I've had, um, a lot of them have followed similar patterns, but some of them have been involved with people I met through the festivals, which have been the longest ones, and then some have been the other slightly longer ones were in real life, meeting women in real life. And in the dating apps, it's never really lasted ever. Uh, but I was playing games on the dating apps because I started to just play the game of playing the game of the dating app, and and that's all it. But basically, I was exploring this further and further. Like, what am I looking for? What do I need? What do I want in a relationship? And what is it that women need and want, and all that. And but it's something. And the reason I'm talking about this is I had a conversation last night with someone that, um, in my feeling, is a little bit in denial about the fact that the reason that our relationship didn't progress was because they that they were not open. What I kind of claimed that they weren't being open, and they found that quite confusing and hurtful. And they said I am a very open person, kind of protesting a bit too much, but they were saying I'm a very open person, maybe just not what you think it means, and you can't just expect. But they were saying I am very open, but you then said you can't expect someone to open up in your timeline. They have to open up in their timeline, and you have to prove that you're worthy of. And there's all this stuff. Like, well, you're basically telling me you're not open. Unless supposedly some person meets some standard that no one's ever met for you. And and I'm laughing about this, and it's not funny. Like, it's not funny for them, I guess. But that was a situation in which I never met the person in real life. We were talking, and we had phone calls. We had a lot of phone calls, and I just started to feel like this person was putting on a performance all the time, and I was putting on a performance. It's what you call a persona. So everyone has, or supposedly has, a persona that they develop for the public, for dealing with the real world. You develop a persona, this outside personality that works maybe in your workplace, in your career, in certain situations, in social situations with new people you've never met. You have the persona, and that's not necessarily you or all of you, but you put up the persona. You have a version or an idea of yourself, and some people's persona can be very, very developed, can be very funny and entertaining and charismatic and all that stuff. Um, but for me, I've always been interested in getting beyond that. And this is the same in male friendships. This is the same in everything. I'm always curious about what's behind that. And I would talk with this lady, and she was very kind of funny and over the top, and would all this stuff, like that. Quite a loud personality, quite a big personality. But to me, there was always a nervousness about it. There was always a slight nervousness, and it felt like she was performing. It felt like she was trying to impress. And I would just say to her, I think there's a part of you that you're hiding. And what I realise now is that that's actually quite a challenging thing to say to someone, and can be quite hurtful and difficult to hear. Once again, I'm talking about my sadistic side. Um, Maybe I enjoy challenging people like that, and maybe that's not very nice, but overall, I think it's for their benefit. Or for me, it's like it's the only possibility of the relationship having any chance. So, um, we talked, and I would bring this up. I would say, yeah, I feel like you're not quite showing me who you really are, and I think that you're putting on this side to impress me. That's what it feels like. It's just my reflection, and you don't have to impress me, and you don't have to act or be funny or be interesting or anything like that. And I'm curious as to see what's behind all that, because that's who I'd be having a relationship with. And right now, I don't feel comfortable. I feel there's something missing, and I am a very feelings intuitive, feeling it in my body kind of a person. Not, I don't really think it all through in a rational sense. I feel things from the person, so I pick up on things in people. I think, especially if I spend a lot of time with them, and I start to get an intuitive sense of what that might be. That is so obvious for me, and maybe not everyone notices it, so no one brings it up for them. But for me, it's pretty like it's like the elephant in the room. It's like sitting right there all the time, and I'm like, are we going to talk about this guy at all? This elephant, um, because he's kind of like sitting on the bed all the time, and he's in between all our conversations, but we're not talking about it. So I challenged her on that, and the thing is that this was a woman that was very, and I've maybe attracted these types a lot, was someone that had been down their own path of development and maybe counseling and maybe therapy and maybe um, coaching and maybe read a lot of the books, a lot of the maybe relationship books, as many women do. They study these things quite a lot. Um, and they study it looking for, oh yeah, men are the fault. Yeah, it's men's fault. They love that stuff. Oh yeah, it's not my fault. It's men's fault. Right, great. Great. What's this page say? Oh, it's men's fault. Great. So, and none of that stuff's really helpful. It just sells an idea to a female audience. Like, yeah, it's not you. You don't have to change. That's the other thing. It's like you don't have to change. You're perfect as you are. You are enough. This is like the rally cry of every emotionally em- uh, emotionally undeveloped woman or something. Like, I am enough. I am enough. It's like, well, maybe you are enough, but how come you don't believe it? This is a problem. So you don't really believe it. So why you keep on saying it? Um, so that was not very pleasant because I was enjoying to some extent the conversation with this person. I could see there was maybe a potential relationship, but I'd made this vow to myself before, like, don't get involved in a relationship with someone that you think might not be able to actually connect. Because down the line it comes to a point where you just get frustrated and realize, oh, they're never gonna connect. And it might be that they're never gonna connect with you. Not necessarily that they can't, but not with you. And therefore they're not, what they're looking for from that relationship isn't the same as what I'm looking for. So I would speak with this lady. It felt like there was this whole performance going on, and I would just gently, I think, challenge her on that and say, and I'd just get more and more bored with the whole presentation and more curious about what was behind that. And eventually, one night, she flipped and her energy shifted and everything about her shifted. Now, what I'm saying is because of her development, her experience, her reading, her learning, she didn't think that that was her. She didn't think that she was someone that wasn't being open, that wasn't open to being vulnerable, that couldn't connect. She didn't see that as being her. As I say, a lot of this literature, a lot of this stuff is like, oh, it's men's fault, and here's the biology behind it, and blah blah blah. And it doesn't challenge women to say it's you're attracting what's coming into your life. Like you are choosing those relationships, and you might be running away from the good ones. And you know, so and the reason that I was quite clear on all this was in my previous relationship to that, from the start, I'd noticed the person had the difficulty with connecting properly. There was something missing. And I decided to give it time, and 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 give it time. And not years, but nearly a year. And I realized, oh, we're not any further forward. This person doesn't want to connect with me or can't connect in general. I don't know which one it is, but I always try and reframe it as doesn't want to connect with me, because I think that's a fairer way of thinking about it. So I realized I'm just going to get frustrated. It's not going to go well. And so that's why I was being quite open about it and quite challenging about it, I suppose. But one night she flipped and the performance dropped and a different person emerged. And it was like a revelation. It was like, and her energy changed. My energy that I'd felt uncomfortable, there's something missing, there's something, that all evaporated. And it was replaced with a nice loving feeling. And she was all of a sudden kind of quiet and relaxed. And I spoke with her. She was different. And I said to her, why don't you show this to people? And she said, I don't think people would like this part of me. And it was very sad for me to hear that, you know. And she had a past of like trying to please her dad and stuff like that. I think it came in from that, perhaps, trying to please people. And I was just like, this is great. Like, this is the part of you I like to get to know more. I think there's a potential of something here that I didn't see before in this other presentation. And that conversation ended, and I was like, wow, that was amazing. And I thought, that's interesting. Maybe there's something genuinely here. And our next conversation, or even maybe before the next conversation, she sent me a message and said, yeah, what happened last night, that wasn't what you thought it was. That isn't really me. You forced me to do that. And I don't think we should talk anymore. It was kind of like that. And then we did talk a little bit afterwards, and she just said, no, I don't, that wasn't me. That was, you forced me to be like that. And I was shocked. I couldn't believe it. I thought we'd made this real progress. We'd broken through into this connection that was real and legitimate and alive. And I couldn't believe they were in denial about it. I could not believe it. And they just ran back to the protective mechanism of their persona. And I just realized I can't, like, the only way forward in that, there was an opportunity to go and see them, meet them, and I just thought, this is just going to be similar to a lot of situations of a sexual dynamic that is utterly, kind of empty. Because the other person doesn't want to it just wants a kind of sexual thing, a fetish, a fantasy thing, and they're going to end up being hurt, and that's what happens with women, like with sex. It's like the only thing that ever happens. They get disappointed, they get hurt. So I don't really want to be part of that cycle. I try and stay away from it now. And all the nonsense about women like being promiscuous and like, yeah, I can just, yeah, have all the sex, be with all the guys you want. It's all great experience. It's all wonderful. It's all nonsense. It's all hurtful for women. Just giving away their power. Like fucking, it's, I don't know. It's the way I see it. Destroying their ability to connect with people, or already have. So it's all they've got left is random sex. or even sex in a relationship, but they're not really connecting with the person. Keep it at a complete distance and they keep it all under control. And they just find another person like that who's the same. Um, so that kind of frittered out, and I was just fascinated. We had a conversation, and the same thing. It was like, I was open. You're wrong about that. I can't believe you said that. And that was very hurtful and all that. And I'm just like, I was I was just being honest. That was my reflection of that moment, and I apologise to her because I think it is hurtful to say you're not open. It's not a very nice thing to say, but I it made me realise once again I cannot do this. I am attracting these situations with these women that are not looking for what I'm looking for, and I can't go down that road. And as soon as I realise it's not happening, just go. And the thing that she said to me is, it takes time. It's like a flower opening up, and I'm like, but you told me you were open. You're denying. You're saying that you were open, but now you're saying that you're a flower that has to open up. And who have you ever opened up to? When did it ever happen? When, at what point is this? Have you ever? And then she said, "There's a part of me I want to keep. And then when I meet my husband, I will show that to him." And I'm like, right. So you're telling me you're not open? Like, what part? This I've heard this thing as well. Like, there's a part of me that's for me, and you can't see it. That's not for you. Like, what do you mean? What does that mean? Why can't the whole world see that? What is wrong with that? What's going to happen? What's the worst that can happen? That people don't like you. What's bad about that? Other people will like you. So what? You put on a fake version of yourself because you think you're going to be liked more. I don't know. Anyway, so I became more and more confirmed, and the relationship prior to that had lasted quite a while. From the start, I realized this person has a there was a disconnection between what they said on the outside and what I felt from them on the inside. Because I'm an empath. Not really. I do have an intuitive feeling side. I met them and they were saying these great things and wonderful things, and I've never felt like this before, and I've been waiting to meet you all my life. Saying all this stuff, I'm like, this sounds like a movie script, and it kind of doesn't feel like it truly reflects, and it feels like their heart isn't open. Um, and I mean on the energetic level. I'm talking about the subtle energies. So the heart wasn't open. That's okay, but the heart wasn't open to me, and that's what I felt. I just thought, hmm, there's something not quite right. But I am very attracted to them. They are very nice person, and I've not got any other option right now. And I'm sort of not. I'm not with anyone else right now, so let's see where this goes. And mostly, once again, it was we had a lot of good times, a good situation, but just it was the same thing over and over, where I'm kind of becoming more clear on this idea of like, there's this thing missing. I can't establish this thing, this connection thing. It's like the way they're treating me is almost like they're scared of me. There's a kind of paranoia there. They think I'm trying to control them, and I'm not sure what's going on. Anyway, that ended, and not too badly, but it was just one of those other things. I was like, that was frustrating because it felt like there was a potential there, and there was a good person somewhere inside there that I was trying to get to know, and I could never get to know them. And another person that was had done the work and done the thing, and you start to realize you're paying the price for the fact that they've had these previous relationships that have probably not went so well, and they've just shut down, and they've just decided that's it from now on. and and that's the sad thing about it. And you start to wonder, really start to wonder, is it me, like they don't want to connect with me, or is it that they can't connect, or the only version of connecting they see is sexual connection? And for me, that's quite difficult without the emotional side. So I was, after that relationship, I was like, well, what is it that I'm trying to figure out here about myself? What is it that I'm missing? That I need to be very more clear about what I'm looking for in these relationships. And I came across a YouTube video, and the guy's talking about emotional intimacy, and he's some kind of therapist or something. And he goes, someone says, what is emotional intimacy? He goes, well, emotional intimacy is when two people in a relationship can display or share everything, put everything out on the table about who they are, put everything out on the table, say, this is me, good and bad and everything else, and can be fully open with that other person and vulnerable, but without any dynamic of control or power, without any of, without it being a feeling of trying to control the other person through that. And it's like, oh yeah, that sounds like what I'm trying to establish, and can't, and struggle, or can't establish, or struggle with. Um, I maybe need to find that video again, because he put it really well. Emotional intimacies, he described it like what I just said there, and I thought, oh yeah, that's it, that's it. That is the main thing that I'm looking for. There's a lot of women that will give you sex these. I don't know. I don't understand why. I don't understand why women are so much more open to offering sex to men, and not the emotional intimacy thing. It's something I don't really get. I don't really get. But anyway, what am I trying to say here? So I realized that, and then I thought, I can't go into relationships knowing this in advance and think that it's going to change. It ain't going to change. It's not going to change. I need to learn this. It's not going to change. They're not going to change. And so the next time I had the relationship, it was funny, because the very first really good conversation we had, there was a moment, once again, one of those emotionally triggering moments, where it was like, this is the opportunity for us to connect deeper. This is the opportunity for them to open up emotionally a little bit more to me. And I felt like this is quite a privilege this person might choose to trust and open up to me. But they chose to not. And I noticed that moment. And the funny thing was that whatever that thing was there throughout the whole relationship, whatever that was, and they never chose to either speak about that or deal with that, whatever that thing was. And once again, I slightly confronted them about it, and they didn't want to, and that was maybe part of what was the end of that relationship. Was, for me, it was like, I need that eventually, and I don't need the person to tell me everything about themselves. It's not that. It's not like you need to tell me all the weird stuff, but you need to trust that I'm not, like, I already get who you are. Like, I'm here with you. I'm spending time with you. I have a sense of who you are. There's no hiding from that. So trying to hide from that just feels like a little bit confusing. And so it just remains to me something that feels like a lack of trust, and I get really sad about that, and it shuts me down. So this has been a pattern that has arisen for me a lot, and it's something that I see in a lot of people. And and I think that I am far too quick, perhaps. But my in saying that, people will say it takes time. It takes time. It's like, what do you mean it takes time? Like what more? Like in reality, it's just like they don't want to do it. It's not really that it takes time. It's like they don't want. They anyway. Well, they don't want to do it with you. They don't want to open up to you. And and that's been my main challenge, relationship wise, I think. And I'm not a great prospect in many ways for a lot of what women are wanting. And certainly right now in the position I'm in, I can't, buy you a great house and pay for all your kids to go to whatever schools or college or whatever. I'm not a particularly wealthy guy and all that stuff, and that's probably very important for some people. Um, and a lot of things like that. Uh, I maybe don't have a great social life. Maybe that's a drawback. I have a diet that a lot of people find a bit restrictive, so that's maybe a drawback for people. So there's a lot of drawbacks with dating me, but for me, like, and when people say, "Would you date a vegan or a non-vegan or whatever?" I really just want to find someone that I can have that connection with. That's it. Fat, thin, tall, short, ugly, beautiful looking. Like, maybe ugly is a bit far, but but not conventionally attractive or whatever. Not that important to be like super conventionally attractive or have a certain face or certain hair color or a certain personality type or whatever. Um, I just think you're looking for a person with a good heart and someone that you can develop a relationship of trust with and all that stuff. And a lot of people are talking, doing the talk, not doing the walk. A lot of people saying that that's what they want as well. I'm sure a lot of men too. I'm sure you'll get a lot of comments below these videos. Oh yeah, men are like that. Oh yeah, that's what men do. Oh yeah, I was involved with a man like that. Like, are you sure? Honestly, are you sure, ladies? Because um, you kind of set dictate relationships. If relationships aren't going well, you have to. You guys really have opened the doors to relationships happening. So I have to question what are you actually wanting. So I've noticed this, and I have conversations with people, and particularly I have conversations with women, and I'm just stunned by it how they run away from this, run away, put on the sprint track shoes, and sprint away from emotional intimacy and connection. And these are the women that have the qualifications and counseling qualifications. So I've met a psychiatrist. I mean, like, they have the coaching, the counseling, they joined the groups, read the books, they go to the emotional Let's All Cry Together group. You know, they get into their 40s and eventually they're like, I'm finally ready, gradually, someday, nearly I'll get there. You know, and it's so frustrating. It's so frustrating. Um, there's a woman I met in Ecuador. We're talking. She was talking about her ex husband, and that she was going to a therapist during the relationship. I don't know why women go to therapists so much, but she was going to a therapist, and the therapist said, "Well, you can leave your husband, but it seems like to me that you're just running away from emotional intimacy." The therapist actually said that directly to her. So it was so. I was thinking, wow, this really is a thing. This is really in. therapists are pointing it out to people, and she chose to run away. It was amazing to me. It was like, why is it that people are scared of this so much? Because then the person can hurt you and control you. And here's a weird story. Well, maybe to finish this off. It's like, yeah, you might get hurt, by the way. That's life. Like, you get hurt. You get over it. It's a magical thing about it. You become a better person. What's the big it's really bad for a while. It's actually for me it's much to me, it's much getting over a breakup is way easier now. It is way, way easier when they don't even want to connect with you. It's like super easy. Like, oh well, nothing really happened there. So um uh, I was speaking to I these conversations amaze me, absolutely amaze me, and I'm like, how are modern people not being confronted on this more? And it's because there's plenty of people out there happy to just have sex with each other, right, and don't care about the other side of it. So anyway, this lady, she goes to me, she's talking about her marriage broke down, and it's like, all right, what was the problem? And she said he was controlling. And when I was younger, I was such a like, if I heard a woman say my partner was controlling, I'd be like, oh my God, that's terrible. In my mind, I'm thinking a man that's like locking her in the house, like stops her from living her life, like all really bad stuff. And I said, but now I've realized you need to ask, what does that mean? Because it really means, often, it means I wanted to sleep with other men and he didn't make it easy for me to do that. That's what it often actually means. But women can't say, I'm kind of a promiscuous person because it's not cool, right? So, because other women won't trust them, right? There's a whole whatever. So, um, here's my boyfriend. I'm happy to introduce my boyfriend to you, my very promiscuous female friend. Like, that's not happening a lot of the time, right? So, anyway, so, uh, so this lady's talking about her partner being controlling. I said, well, what does that mean he was controlling? And she said, well, he wasn't happy with the fact that I had male friends that I would talk to about certain things that I wouldn't talk to him about. And I was like, wait, so your husband? There were things that you were happy to talk to other men about who weren't your husband, who weren't helping to pay for your house, the life you have, support you, father of your child. There was a guy who wasn't that, just some guy that you're friends with, that you were happy to talk to about things, I'm assuming personal things, that you're not happy to talk to your husband about. Of course, your husband's not going to be that happy about that. Of course, he might want to demand that you, like, not do that. And and I talked to her more about it. I said, why wouldn't you tell your husband about these things? And I pushed, because here's the thing, no one ever pushes. They just go, oh yeah, controlling, yeah, bad man. Man bad, women good. You're right. Pat you on the head. I'm going to try and have sex with you now. Like, that's what most men would have said to her. That's right, mostly. But I was like pushing it a little bit further because I was really curious about it, really curious and interested, and kept on talking to her about it. Why were you not comfortable to talk to your husband, who you're married to, who you share everything with, about things you're going to talk to other dudes about? And I just see it as like dudes, not like they're not like great friends she's had for, like, just dudes. It's just some dude, some guy. Um, so she said, if I tell someone everything about me, that means they can control me. That blew my mind. I was like, what are you talking about? You think the husband that you chose, the man that you chose to be in a relationship with, that you have chosen, that you have had a wedding and all that, and had a child with, and all this stuff, you think that guy's trying to control you. You think that guy's entire agenda is to have power and control over you, and he's going to do that by finding everything about you. That's bizarre. Why would that even make someone have power over you? It doesn't make any sense. Or if they wanted to control you, now they can because they really know everything about you. It's like, that's paranoia. Total paranoia thinking. Really bizarre. So I've seen this in a lot of shapes and sizes. It disappoints me. I'm like, what's going on? And I think the main problem is people are having too many relationships. I don't think people are designed to have all these relationships. So people, when they're young, they're trusting, they're open. And at that point, they're meant to find a person, develop a relationship, and that's pretty much it. But now there's a whole other side to this where people are like, oh, I'm going to try many different relationships. I'm going to go traveling and randomly have sex with people that I meet. And I'm going to have multiple different styles of relationships. And I'm going to experiment with different relationship connection styles and all this. And really what happens is people become burned out and hurt. And it's not as adventurous as you think, because actually there's a lot of shame in it, especially for women who try and characterize it all as, oh no, this is all feminism, patriarchy, I shouldn't feel this, but they do. It's just completely natural for them to feel that way. They feel the shame, they feel the jealousy, they feel the anxiety, the depression comes, all very real. And all of a sudden, they can't connect anymore. And then bozos like me come along and I'm like, what's up with this? Why can't they connect? What's this all about? And I'm not saying exactly that that's right, but it's an idea. Anyway, it's a really long video, and I'm just sharing this because I'm still trying to talk about it and work it out and all that. But I'd be happy to get your feedback and your stories and your comments below, and if it's of any interest, maybe I'll do another one at some point talking about this stuff. And thank you for listening. If you did listen, thank you.